Welcome to the Books and Martinis podcast.
I'm Priya.
And I'm Mercy.
And this is your go-to book podcast,
where we lift, empower, and spotlight authors.
Grab your martini and follow along.
And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to our podcast. I'm Priya.
And I'm Mercy. Welcome, everybody, especially Carly. Carly, welcome.
Cheers. Salute.
What a woman. What a woman.
It's a great interview.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
We have on our
so
screen.
happy to have you.
We have on our screen a ball of energy, Carly Robbins, aka CJ Bloom.
You got it.
She is a voice actor and she's done thousands of books, guys. Thousands, and you probably listened to her books and not even realize it.
And not even know it.
Welcome so much, Carly. Thank you for joining us.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I just feel like it is my job and duty to come on and talk about audiobooks. So I'm thrilled that you guys invited me. I was not familiar with you prior to this. And so I feel like, oh my goodness, this is like a new area for me to get involved in. So
yes,
I'm excited.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love
podcast.
It. Well, thank you for being here.
Let me kick it off with the bio and then we can get straight in because I feel like,
Great.
so you guys know before we even clicked record, we had a whole ass conversation.
We did have it's
We
true.
did, yeah.
We just went right in.
Let me do the bio real quick. Okay, so Carly Robbins, aka CJ Bloom, a New York-based actress and voiceover artist living in Brooklyn, has narrated over 1,000 audiobooks and works regularly with a vast roster of publishers, production houses, and independent authors such as Audible Studios, Hachette, Harper Collins, Macmillan, Blackstone Publishing, Simon & Schuster, Penguin Random House, Dreamscape, Tantor, Brilliance, Blue Nose Audio. The list goes on. Lyric.
I don't think there's anybody that I haven't worked with. And just so you know, it's Hachette. They're French.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, snap. Okay.
Not Hachette. You killed it.
Already we're going to start off right away with one of those things that only a narrator would know, which is mispronunciations.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're
going to have a blast with us.
Oh, I can tell. Let me tell you something. Until you become a narrator, you have no idea how many things you mispronounce in your daily life.
Really? Oh.
It is shocking to me because the words that we read aren't what we speak. So we only use a handful of words in our daily life. We use the same things over and over and over again.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. When you're reading something, right, that's like crafting a whole story and they're probably using different terms or things that you don't normally see or hear in your day-to-day life or things that you have only read, but you've actually never said yourself. So I cannot tell you how many times it doesn't happen as much anymore because, like you said, I've narrated over 1,000 titles and I've been doing this for 10 years. So I do sometimes still get flagged for things, but for the most part, the things that I kept making errors over and over again, I tried to fix. And there is certainly some Facebook groups for narrators only. And everybody's like, all right, what's your word? And everybody's has their word that for whatever reason they cannot say correctly in their brain, even though they know exactly how it's supposed to be said. So
what's your word?
Oh my God, I have so many words.
You have no idea. So I used to say grocery with a sh, but it's not. It's grocery. It's a grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll hear everybody says grocery store. Or I used to say, in particular for romance, because I do a lot of romance, aphrodisiac.
Mm-hmm.
I used to say with a j, like aphrodisiac.
Yes.
That is correct. Or a lot of people say parmesan. Parmesan. It's parmesan.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, if you're going to use the Italian, it would be like parmigiano.
Parmigiano.
But it's parmesan. It's not parmesan.
Oh, we've been saying it wrong this whole time?
Who knew?
We need a whole lesson.
You know what? There's maybe a small subset of grammar nerds who are like, I've been telling you the whole time you've been saying it wrong. And they're like, I should have been a narrator. I shouldn't just be one of those people that corrects everybody's speech all the time. Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
You know, so there are two words. So people make fun of me when I say axe. Axe. Mercy has done it to me.
I can already see it's a problem. Ask. Yeah. It's how your tongue works. I know.
Yeah, it is. It is. And because I'm Caribbean, I'm so used to saying tree instead of three. So I have to like, it'll just flow out as tree. Like, you know what I mean? Or Tuesday. You know, like the way I
Interesting.
say it, Tuesday.
Yeah. That's
Water.
so interesting.
New
It's a
Yorker.
perfect example of how the evolution of language, like so saying grocery, it's not like you don't understand what I'm saying. So whether or not it's correct or incorrect, right? We're going to be accurate for the medium of audiobooks. But like that is how language evolves. There are things, and then it says something about you and your heritage and where you come from and like how your mouth evolved to be able to say words and things. Like it's so fascinating for me. I mean, obviously, I'm a voiceover junkie. I like watching the way people's mouths move. All the time, like I'm watching television shows, and I'm like, I love the way her mouth moves, like how she just like
funny.
talks or things. Yeah, how like her like the way things happen in this area.
Yeah.
A special little something that happens with their mouth. It's just anyway, it's so charming.
I love it. So should I even continue with the bio? I feel like we're in it already.
Oh, okay, we're in it. Yeah, forget the bio.
Because there's a long list of amazing stuff you've done.
You're very kind. Thank you.
I think they're already in love with
my
her.
fault.
They
I should have
already
sent
fell
you
in
something
love.
shorter. Oh, I hope so.
No, it's okay. And so you're our third interview for today. Usually we record like
my God.
a batch, and by this point we're just like, oh, we're so tired.
Okay, then I'm going to be your jolt of energy.
Yes.
Okay, can I show you? This is our day. Look, this.
Oh no.
And this.
Yes, I got my coffee too.
And this.
I have chocolate. I hate it already.
That's how it's doing. And wait, and this.
You have more than me. What the heck?
You know what? You are
Loaded.
just like me. Usually, I'm in my booth right now, which is why it's dark. I prefer actually a dark booth. I find it's easier for me to like quiet the noise of everything else going on. I also find it keeps things cooler to not have so much tech on. And when you're in like a small box, you're always like sweating your balls off.
Yeah.
So you want to keep things as cool as possible. And it also gives me less eye fatigue, just so you know. It's like a little insider knowledge. If I have less light and sort of things happening, my eye, because it's all about endurance.
Yeah.
So the less I have. But I do often have like a string of like 4 or 5 different things that I'm drinking. Sometimes it's like something with citrus, which really helps for like mouth noises for me, like a lemon or something like that. And then I have like my water, and then I have sometimes a hot tea. And then sometimes if I had a particularly restless night of sleep, it's like a second dose of tea or a coffee or something. So I see you.
Okay, good.
Your
That was nuts.
With your row of drinks, I see you because I am
have
exactly
to stay
the same
hydrated,
way.
but I need my caffeine. But I'm having a seltzer water
You
with
guys
fruits.
are having, and you guys are having a banner day. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm third. Hopefully I'll wake you up.
We have one more to go. We're really excited to talk to you. And the 2 authors prior to you were phenomenal. I mean,
amazing.
oh my goodness, they were wonderful. We just had such a blast with them. They were
so
amazing, amazing authors and like incredible badass women. And we're lucky to do this. We're really grateful that we get to do what we love to do. So we're all about lifting and empowering women and sharing with other people that want to write, and they're aspiring authors and
voiceover actors.
Oh, I hear you.
Because we definitely want to hear any tips or advice.
Oh, I can give you a big one right now.
Go ahead.
If you are interested not just in being a voiceover, but if you are interested in writing, read your book out loud. It is something I don't hear mentioned often enough. And it actually goes back to what we were saying earlier, which is like, those aren't the words that people say. I think you will see in your dialogue or descriptions or things how stilted it could be, or just how unnatural it might sound, particularly if you want your book to be made into audio. It can change things so much, whether or not you have so many tags, or you're like, oh my God, I wrote, she bit her lower lip like 500 times. Nobody wants to hear it again. Why did I say that so much? Or like,
because she read it out loud.
Or or she gasps, or she whispers, or so. I was like, sometimes you get a great editor, sometimes you don't. And that's a hard lesson that a lot of our authors, by the time it gets to me, sometimes they're mortified because I get the script and it's like, scenes are in the middle of chapters that shouldn't be there, that were clearly from like a previous edit, or some of those small kinds of things, or typos, and they're mortified. They've got a simultaneous release. They're doing their book and their audio, and
So what do you do? Do you tell them, or you just do your
100%,
job?
absolutely.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Absolutely. And immediately, write to my producer. I'm generally not working directly with authors, or at least I don't do that often. Usually I go through a production house or a publisher or something. And absolutely you alert them and say, politely and professionally, of course, but like,
what the hell?
Somebody's got to,
you're like, what the hell?
You paid a lot of money, and yeah, somebody's got to take a relook at this. But I think that that's one of the most important things. And I totally understand. I cannot tell you how many times I've spoken to authors and they're like, I don't want to reread my own work. I'm sort of, like grossed out by it. I don't want to.
What?
Or a lot of, yes. Or like they don't want to hear the audiobook because they're embarrassed. It happens. It's easily like 50%. Some love it and use it as like a part of their business practice, or they'll, that they want to hear it. They want so much control over the final product that they're the ones listening. Some have, ARC listeners, or like a advanced listener company, so like an ALC or something. So they'll have like people that will listen for them, that know them, that understand them, so they're not doing it. But I think it would behoove that. And trust me, I don't want to listen to my own voice, but I think because you're so self-critical, right? Of course, that's what we're all talking about. It's the vulnerability of being self-critical. But I do think that there is some power in facing that fear and listening to the things that you do, to be self-critical, so that when sometimes you get a bad review or you get some negative feedback, that there might have been some kernel of truth in that. Like, that's just our ego, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
got to quiet our ego and look at it with the work. And that is so hard to do, right? Because it's our art and it's ourselves that we're putting forward. But I find I do my most, sort of like the biggest growth as a person or as an artist, by really trying to quiet that, the ego response, and look at things truthfully to see if I can truly make some improvements.
I kind of feel like that's a whole, like, another episode. Quieting the ego.
One of the things I worked, can I tell you, this work gave me that philosophy. Because I started going to book events just a couple of years ago. They didn't always invite narrators. And
really?
Correct. And the first one that I ever got invited to was Book Bonanza, and it was about 3 or 4 years ago. Book Bonanza doesn't exist anymore. It was run by Colleen Hoover. It was in Dallas. It was one of the biggest.
Oh, I remember
book
that.
events. Yeah, it was one of the biggest book events, I think, probably in the United States. I think they had been doing it for, I think, like, I don't know, 15 years. Don't quote me on that, but it had been a long time. She got busy, and also I just think it's exhausting. It's exhausting to run a book event every year. And I think they felt like, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to speak for them, but I think they just, sort of released a thing where they were just tired. They just decided, like, maybe it's time. They achieved all the goals that they had set out for. Like, they're going to
serve their purpose. It was done.
Again. Yeah, exactly. And so we only got invited the last, like, 4 years, or it's 3 times. I only went 3 times. And that was 4 years ago, because it's been it'll be a year in June. So we only got invited like the last handful of times that they held the event. But so I know in my preparation, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I got invited. This is so exciting, And I also, talk about ego, felt like, who's gonna come and want to say hi to me or have me do what? And I didn't realize you, as a narrator, you will sign a book. People bring books for you to sign along with the author, particularly if the author, it's so beautiful. I also didn't realize how much the work mattered, and what kind of joy it brings to listeners. Right. So I started narrating. This is going to be a long-winded answer, but I started narrating about 10 years ago. I live in Brooklyn, New York, and I moved to New York to be an actor. I wanted to, work on the stage, and I was trying to cobble together a career, unsuccessfully, a job here and there, but it never felt like it was anything that was building or that I was making any headway. And every time I went for like a commercial audition, everybody, all the casting directors would always say, "Oh, and you must do voiceovers too." And I would always say, "Yes, of course." But it was a very insular, I didn't. But you don't want to say, "What's a voiceover?" I
You
don't even know
can't
what
say
that
no.
is.
You gotta be like,
Can't say
yes,
no.
I can ride a
You gotta
horse. Sure.
always, 100% I can ride a horse. There's always that story of somebody who was like, "And I can ice skate," and then they get cast in like a roller derby and they have to learn how to ice skate
Right?
or like a roller skate. And so I sort of kept hearing that and felt like, okay, so I'll take some classes. Or they had places where like you can meet casting directors, and then a casting director would bring me in and then I'd book a job. Or there had been some websites, and so I would audition on websites and get a job, a couple jobs here and there. So I sort of cobbled together a handful of different jobs for varying pay raises and things like that. And fell into audiobooks sort of the same way as like another spoke of that voiceover world, and felt like it was the closest thing for me to being on stage, right? To do a full performance. And so that I just kind of felt like, oh, I guess I'll kind of maybe do this now without, any sort of intention. And then I just kept booking jobs, and then I was like paying my bills, and then I was like a career, and then I was doing like 100 books a year, and then I was really
Wow.
enjoying it. And then I went to a book event, right? So I'd just been sort of living my life that way, like, oh my God, somebody's still hiring me. Oh my God, I'm getting another email. They're offering me a job. I didn't realize that people were listening or that I had a name that was recognizable. I didn't know that. I wasn't very active on social media. Social media 4 or 5 years ago certainly wasn't what it is now,
Correct.
particularly for like a book talk. TikTok didn't exist. And so I think having any sort of name recognition that way just wasn't, it hadn't evolved yet. And so when I went to this book event and I started listening to people, and they would tell me stories about, they would, had gotten so comforted by my voice. And I would be their travel companion when they were really stressed out or going on a really long car trip with kids in the background, or doing, folding laundry, and they just needed to like quiet the noise of their home life, or they were going through a super stressful time, or they knew that they could just put me in their ears and I would bring them comfort and joy. And I realized I was looking at this job the entirely wrong way, or what would matter for me. I had
Right.
thought it was going to be like an ends to a means, right? Or means to an end, whatever the phrase is, to, further my professional acting career. And so it was just like a job. I didn't realize that the work mattered. And once I realized that the work mattered, my ego about my own vulnerabilities and fears about being good enough, right? Who doesn't feel that? Or imposter syndrome, which we
Right.
all worry about. I was able to quiet that a little bit more. I'm not saying I'm always successful, but I remind myself all the time, I bring all the faces of all the people that I've met, or, I felt like I'm doing a disservice by not being active on social media. People want to know about me or the books that I'm doing, or
Yes.
authors that I
Yes.
support. And the authors want the support too. It's like
Absolutely.
this wonderful community. And I realized I was doing it all wrong. And
Well,
so it was life-changing, truly. Yeah, go
well,
ahead.
let me tell you. So I know
Tell
at
me.
least from my perspective, like of course when you're little you read, but well, you're an avid book reader, and then there's a break. For me, I had kids, got married, all that stuff, and then I hit a point in my life where I just needed to escape.
Yeah.
I was so stressed out, and audiobooks did it for me before actually sitting down and reading like a full book, hard copy,
I agree.
audiobooks. And it was Ice Planet Barbarians, that whole
Did I
series.
narrate that one? It's possible I narrated that one.
I think you might have, Carly. And I was just sucked in 16 books later, book
I
after
remember
book
that.
after book. You know what I mean? And but it was therapy. I
Yeah.
escaped whatever, sadness I was feeling, all that stuff. And
We get options. It gives us options because when you're
yes.
actually reading a book, you have to stop to read the book. When you're listening, you could go on and you're so productive. You do a million things, or
Yep.
you're jogging, or
Clean
you're
the
cooking,
house,
or right, whatever you're doing,
all
you're
those
still
things.
you're in another world. You're there, but you're not there, and it's such a perfect balance so many times.
Yeah.
Oh, I
So
completely
so
agree. And
it's
I hear this from listeners all the time, this
Mhm.
exact
Yes.
same thing.
Yes.
So it felt like a calling. and it felt like it was a total reframe for me about what my purpose in this business and industry should be. And also the things that I think we all kind of hear, particularly in romance, some grumblings about the genre itself, or it's very maligned or belittled or dismissed. And one of the biggest philosophies, right, is don't yuck somebody else's yum. So I sometimes get a book. It may not be something that I enjoy, but that is not going to stop me from giving, 150% in that performance, because it's going to be some listener that they're going to come up because it has happened. They're weeping about this story. And in my head, I'm like,
really?
I don't remember that one being that great. Like, but that's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's not for me to say, because they would probably think that about something that I enjoyed, right? So that's the whole point. And anyway, so I felt like it was, it was a reframe.
And I love
yeah.
and I love what you're doing, and it has to be done so properly. Doing it well is kind of retelling the story in a way.
The reinterpretation, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because you can read a book and you can listen to a book. And sometimes when you listen to it, it's like watching a movie. I guess, well, maybe for me. So, because I'm Hispanic, reading in English is harder because I'm thinking in Spanish. And when I read in Spanish, what you read is what it is. There is no TH and there's no this and it's like, it's mom, M-O-M, mom. That's it. The whole vocabulary in Spanish, it's exactly what you read. But in English, there's so many them, they, their, they are, they like, and you have all these like, what is happening? So I wrote a book, so I can read it, I can write, I can do so many different things with it, but still in my deep core, when I listen to it, it's less stressful.
Interesting.
Because I cannot read it as smoothly. I have to read it maybe twice, and then I'm like, what was that word? And so I learned from reading it, which we were talking about, right?
Yeah.
Reading it out loud. And I learn, and that's how I learned English, was watching TV and reading. But when I get to listen to it, I don't have to work. I just enjoy. And
so can I tell you something so fascinating hearing you say that? So I went to Rare in Paris last summer, and obviously a totally different market than in America. And I was shocked with how many fans came out to seek me out that were from like Romania or I don't even know where. And there was one woman who said specifically, I think she's German, and apparently audiobooks are very big in Germany, particularly English audiobooks. But she listened exclusively because when German or other, it's mostly European countries that things are translated into, they don't do emotions the same way that American performers do them.
Yep.
And so a lot of people prefer the English-speaking performers to listen because they want a full performance, even if it's harder for them to listen. And this woman in particular told me, she was like, so I exclusively listened, and not only did my English get better, my comprehension, my understanding, the performance, like I understood everything. It helped me so much. She got some like huge promotion at her job because her English and understanding. Yes. Isn't that
I believe it.
You changed the course of somebody's life.
It wasn't just me. I mean, she was coming because she enjoyed my performances, but she listened to a lot of people's. It wasn't just me, but that was her preference, because I don't think it's caught on in other markets. When things get translated, they're literally just reading, sometimes verbatim. So you're missing, right?
The emotion.
And you have to get even like more than that. Like you have to get a translation that understands humor, or, something that's going to translate into somebody else's culture and society.
Yeah.
And so often that's too complicated and probably too expensive, frankly.
Wow.
So they're just going to read it. And then people just sort of don't understand, like, why is that joke funny? Or like, why is that? And then they're confused by it. But if they get the American performance, because that performer understands the words and the they're interpreting the full artistry and performance of it. They're getting like a full like you said, cinematic experience.
Yeah.
Orally. And so that was another eye-opening experience for me to sort of be like, oh my God, another way that the work matters.
Well, it's so funny you're saying that because our second most listened to country is Germany. So I wonder if it's a thing. It's the US and Germany and then Ireland are our top 3 countries. So we usually post our podcast at 3 a.m. so they have it first.
In the morning, right?
Yeah.
Germany, write us and tell us, is this true?
Is this true?
It's just a hypothesis on my end. So let us know.
So they love podcasts, they love the audiobooks. That's so funny.
And so your career choice at this point, the one that you found not looking for.
Yes.
Right?
Completely.
Is so important. Tell us why it's important to you and why we need to learn the things that we need to learn that clearly Priya and I didn't know before we started the interview and you told us about.
Oh my goodness.
That I don't think a lot of our listeners are aware of.
Fantastic.
So educate us.
How much time do you have? I'm going to try and
as long as you want.
Fantastic. Okay. I'm going to try not to ramble. I'm going to try and be as precise as possible.
This is important.
So, I truly believe it is. And I'm so grateful that you have me on so that I can, educate listeners and get them excited to support authors and narrators and keep our industry alive. So a handful of things. One, this is something I mentioned to you before we started taping. A lot of times on the cover art of the audiobook, sometimes the cover art is the same from the print to the audiobook. Sometimes it's just an ebook and an audiobook, whatever variation. Sometimes they don't even put the narrator on the cover art, which sends a message, which you would think like, that sounds so crazy. And then you'll go through your, to be listened to list and you'll be like, she was totally right. There's only a handful of them even have the narrators on them. Which I can appreciate, right? Because the author feels like that is their right, or the publisher feels like they want to market and believe in the work in a particular way. But I think it undermines the work that us narrators do. And a lot of times it is just a voice.
No, but you're making the whole story. You're making the whole book. You're making it come alive.
I don't think it's just a voice. I think it's
also
a voice.
I think some people may think that. I think particularly in romance as a genre and the community that has evolved out of that, there are a handful of voices that are known, that are considered to be one-clicks, if you've ever heard that term, which is like somebody sees their name and they're like, automatically, I don't care who the author is, it may be somebody I've never heard of before, I don't even know what the genre is, but I love that narrator and I know that they're going to take me on a story and maybe I'll learn something new that I might not have, gotten to on my own. And, there's a lot of threats to the entertainment industry in general. Everybody talks about AI, but what does that mean? AI means that there is a lot of pressure to, cheapen the work that we do, to make it just an audio generated artificial voice, where it takes a composite of our voices. There isn't a law to protect that. So
Isn't Amazon coming out with something like that? I could have sworn I saw somewhere.
Apple came out with something. Everybody has something already.
For audiobooks, for authors too.
Yeah, 100%. Even like, was it ChatGPT came up with their voice and it sounded like Scarlett Johansson. And she was like,
I remember that.
Yeah. And I guess they had approached her years before. And offered her a ton of money. And she was like, I don't think so. This isn't what I believe in for art. And then they took what they said was a composite, but it sounded like her. Thank goodness we have celebrities that have the resources and the
body.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's still going through the court systems. And hopefully there will be laws about that. But it's happened to a handful of my colleagues where they're like, oh my God, that sounds like my voice.
Are you in SAG? Because all those strikes. Okay.
It's true. So we are in the union, but AI is such an unknown at the moment for what it could be. It's very hard to, in my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to get upset because a lot of people felt the union didn't do enough in the most recent strike to have protections against AI. But, sadly, that comes from both sides. That comes from the generators and the union, and the union will take everything that they're allowed to take, right? But at some point, people have to go back to work. So I have a lot of empathy on the union side for what they're able to get accomplished and what they're not. And it is still sort of like a new frontier. We'll see how it goes, but it's deeply upsetting. So that's first, right? We're all fighting to keep this medium alive that we all love so much, the community that it fosters, the performances, because AI will get better. It'll get cheaper, right? Everybody wants cheaper. But I'm hoping that by seeing my face, by going to book events, that you're not just investing in my performance and my voice, but you're investing in me, in the relationships that I develop with my listeners, with my authors, with my colleagues, that this is sort of the community that we all love.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. Making sure that we get the recognition that I think and respect
We've earned.
that we've earned 100%. And a lot of people don't know that. I think it's also something like, who is that voice, or sort of how do they go through the process? Or maybe it seems so easy, but particularly in the indie market, a lot of those authors are planning their books out for years in advance. So I have jobs in 2026 that are already on my calendar. The book hasn't even been written yet. Yeah, it's crazy.
Wait, they haven't written the book and they've already booked you?
Sometimes not. Yes,
How do they do that? They put a down payment?
You know what? We get no money. We just get a promise of the book. That's it. So I hold space in my calendar.
So
on the off, yeah.
So what do you know to say yes? So if it's an indie author who's new, how do you know to say yes or no? Is it just like,
I mean, generally,
you feel good about it?
Totally. I mean, I am not getting approached by the random Joe Schmo that's like, I want to write a book and I'm going to see if I can get this woman. And if that does happen, that goes through like websites like ACX or something like that, which is the Audio Creation Exchange. It's an opportunity where rights holders can meet with producers. It's kind of a mess at the moment because there's just so many people on it. But in its infancy, it's how I got started as a narrator. And it's still a great platform to use for that intermediary, so you maybe don't fall into the trap of doing all this work and not getting paid for it. But generally, I'm getting my work from either returning authors, so there's a trust there, or if they're not, I go through like my own sort of personal vetting of them. Some people have people sign contracts. What's that going to do unless you're going to sue somebody? Means nothing. Right. But you want to try and see if they're serious people, that kind of thing. And then there's an amount of trust on both ends, right? Right. Particularly if you are a new author. It has happened many times that I've heard they think that they're hiring somebody that's great and that person ghosts them, and now they've missed their simultaneous release, or they've got files that they can't use and they have to pay that person, or they choose to pay that person, or I don't know, the horror stories are terrible.
Wow. Yeah.
So I think that on my end, it's also my opportunity to be a resource and, a sounding board and a guide as people navigate this industry to know what is a yes and what is a no, and sort of maybe what the expectations should be, not maybe what you hear on Book Talk, but maybe what in practice and execution really happens. And listen, I have a lot of respect for a lot of the narrators that are just like, you know what, I want to be a narrator. They have no acting experience. They come to this from just being a fan, and they decide they want to make a career change. And so they start a TikTok account and then they just live narrate. Fantastic. More power to you. I'm glad you have 100,000
I've seen
followers.
quite a few blow up on TikTok.
Fantastic. Me as well. And they've never done a book. They've never actually narrated a book. They're sort of just manifesting. They're just reading, in their room. That's fantastic. I'm so happy you can come to this work from being, a trained actor like I was, or just somebody that's putting in the work and practicing, and you just love it so much that you're just like manifesting a career. Fantastic. I am all for that. But let's all just make sure that we're operating under the same premise of what is expected, what you can charge people, a time frame that you can have respect for authors for, that you're supportive of people, you're great to your co-narrator. Those are all really important things, and that your communication is great. I think kindness in this industry, particularly since so much is done not together, but over technology or done via email. Like you'll never meet somebody. You don't know what their voice sounds like. You don't know what they look like. So it's easy to sort of ignore it, and maybe 6 months go by and where are your files and, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I think it matters to put, if it's going to be a thriving, ever evolving, dynamic industry, then I want to make sure that I insert myself to help guide it in a way that I think is healthy and will reap returns for everybody,
Well, I feel like this is a
That was a
masterclass.
long-winded
This is a
That was a
masterclass.
very long-winded answer to supporting authors
Absolutely.
and supporting narrators, and making sure that you are liking or following your narrators. It's so important because sadly, however many followers is going to keep me employed. Maybe not for everybody, but
Yeah.
for some people, right?
Because numbers
Absolutely.
matter to the producers and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And our
It
listeners
matters.
are readers and they're writers and they're authors. So it all matters. This is
It all
core
matters.
information to all of them.
Now,
So this is really important.
now I got a fun question. Let's turn it around a little bit.
Hit me.
Okay. And you don't, it's kind of like, one of those shows that you watch, like you got to eat the hot wing if you don't want to answer. We don't have that right now. You could take a swig of your vodka.
Oh my God, if I ate a hot wing, I would be like passed out. I cannot do spice. I
love spice.
I love spice too.
I could do it better when I was younger, but as I've gotten a little older, it's like even the slightest little bit, and I'm like sick for 2 days. Okay,
Oh,
go ahead.
no.
Man.
With your spice level. I know.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Vodka's going down.
So who is your favorite co-narrator?
Oh,
Because I know you worked with some big guys or girls, and so who's
that's
your
a great
favorite?
question.
You can take a swig of your vodka if you don't want to answer.
I always, if you're asking, like, hands down, my girls, like a Maxine Mitchell or a Lucy Rivers, will always be my heart, or a Rose Dioro. We just did there is a charity thing that we do every year for Lift for Autism, and we all just joined forces to put together sort of like a master class to have people bid on. Yeah, it's run by Kennedy Ryan. And the other woman, and I cannot remember her name, and I'm going to do her a disservice, but Lift for Autism, it's just closed like a week or two ago, and we all decided to come together, and they loved my idea, which was to have each of us read a section, break it down, sort of how we each approach the work, like from an artistry level, and that it would be a selection, like a curated selection list, and then the bidders could choose from that list for each of us. So, like, I love them. I don't even know if I've ever been on a book with them, but like women like that, and there's probably more I'm not thinking of right at the moment, but like there's some classy broads, man, and they just like a lot of the authors that I work for, they are just so smart, so capable, so entrepreneurial, so giving. They're my colleagues that I go to when I've got questions about something that happens, or like an area that I want to navigate, or I'm just feeling like down in the dumps. Like I've done way too many dark mafia. I got to get out of this. I'm feeling really low. I got to do like a YA or something.
Question. That's going to take me to the next question.
Tell me.
It doesn't have to be one.
Yeah.
Let's say, a couple, but what's been your favorite book you've narrated?
Okay. So the project that I narrated that was my favorite was Little Women. I know. There is not, there are so many that are in like my top 20. That is by far my number one. So back in the day, it's not the case anymore, but Audible used to do a ton of production, and we would all go to their studio, which is in Newark, and it was dreamy. And I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about Audible. Audible, the company, is different than Audible, the production, the producers and the casting people that we all work with, who are just so lovely and have given me so many amazing projects. But right, it's a huge company. So I totally understand that people have, love-hate relationship with Amazon/Audible. But back in the day, they used to do all these really incredible productions like this. And one of them happened to be Little Women. And I think I got that, truthfully, because it came on the tail of when I did the Kiss Quotient. I don't know if anybody has listened to that. Oh, Let me help you. This came out in 2018.
Wait, is it spicy?
Share.
It is spicy. It is like a
Ooh.
reverse Pretty Woman, but it was the
Okay.
first book that was part of the sort of like hashtag own voices movement. So writing from your own, life experience. And so the author had didn't know she was autistic until her daughter went to school, and the school happened to notice, and they got her tested and then some support, and she was like, oh my God, those are all things that I experience. And was able to find her own diagnosis anyway. So that came into the story.
And what was
It was a
that called?
sensational book, The Kiss Quotient. And so I had a really big year in 2018. I mean, I've had a couple of big years, but that was a really big one. Certainly because I had started in like 2014. And so it was on like everybody's top 10 list for the year, one of those kinds of books. And so I think because of that, I got into this. I got to play Amy March. I was cast as Amy March because I think I was on everybody's minds. And it was 2 weeks in studio. It was like every journeyman actor that ever existed in New York would come in for like a day player role kind of thing. So every day we were like, who's coming? And so as a theater junkie, that was like a thing that I was super excited about. And all of us March sisters totally bonded. And it was the same year that Greta Gerwig did her version of Little Women. So they got Laura Dern to play the narrator voice. Obviously, she didn't work with us, although how awesome would that have been? So she's the narrator voice. We were all in studio. She recorded that somewhere else, probably in Los Angeles. And it was one of the most magical performance experiences I've ever had. There will be nothing, I think, that could ever match that.
Wow.
That's beautiful. How about recently? What's your favorite, most recent, your latest project that you really enjoyed?
Let me think.
You can take a shot of vodka if you don't want to answer.
I might.
She's almost out. Be careful.
Gotta go get a refill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there are a handful of authors that I've been super lucky to work with over and over. One of them.
These are books. These are books. The question is on the book.
I understand, but I will tell you. I'm getting to hear it. I hear you. One of those authors is Rebecca Yarros.
Yes.
Very big from Fourth Wing, right?
Yeah.
I have been super lucky to have narrated 11 of her contemporary romance titles.
Oh, wow.
Going back to her very first book. She started, her very first book was, I think, 2015. So it was in like the first year.
I had this one open.
In the likely event.
Is that the one?
It is not. I was going to talk about Variation.
Oh, okay.
Which is one that I did recently.
Oh.
Okay, let me click on your name.
So she is one of those authors. There probably is not a book that I have done by her that I would not wholeheartedly recommend. One of the more interesting ones that I ever narrated for her was The Things We Leave Unfinished. It was 2 separate timelines. It went back to like, what were you going to say? Tell me. You're pointed.
No, the book.
No,
the book
she's somewhere else.
Okay, fair enough. The Things We Leave Unfinished,
I'm like
and then
scrolling.
Variation. As you should. It was a sensational, all of those. But Variation was the most recent one that I narrated with her. Do you know what? I just did a book event. It was the release party at the Ripped Bodice in Brooklyn for the Ritchie
You were
sisters.
there? I've been dying to go to that store.
It's literally 5 minutes from my house. Listeners, it's 5 minutes. It's such a condensed neighborhood, you'll never find me, but it is 5 minutes from my house, so it's super easy.
So how often are you doing events there so I could come over there and get something signed?
Yes, all the time. Anytime that it is a stop where one of my authors, they're going, I will go. And for the Ritchie sisters, we just did Aaron Shedlock and I, who is a doll. Another person that I love to work with. Oh my goodness, is he dreamy. He is such a lovely human, and we have become friends, and I love working with him, so aces. Okay, he and I we started their series, Dishonestly Yours, and then we just did Destructively Mine, and that just came out like a week ago, and they're sort of like young adults because they're in their like really early 20s, and they come from a family of grifters. So they're always doing like a con, and it was outstanding. And so that book got released. The cover art alone is a reason to click on it.
Oh, it's gorgeous. I just pulled it up.
Let me see.
As you should.
Let me see, Priya.
It's small though. It's like a flower.
Yeah. And then look at Dishonestly Yours. It's like a pink chocolate covered dripping strawberry.
Ooh.
When I saw that
Oh,
cover
people
art,
see that.
I didn't know I was cast, but I follow them because I've narrated for them a handful of times prior to that, and I was like, oh my God, that cover. And then like a little while later, I found out that I was going to be narrating it, and I was like, oh my God. Anyway, they're dolls. I am in July. Max Monroe, if I love a rom-com and they like speak from my heart, they will be at the Ripped Bodice in July. And they asked me to attend with them, so I will be there.
What date? So I can write it down.
It's like July 7th or July 8th or something like that. You'll have to look on the Ripped Bodice website. If anybody's in town, come and see me.
I'm totally going to put it on my calendar.
Yeah. So I love them. Max Monroe, I love them. What I should have said, that was a great one. That was like a rip your heart out while laughing kind of book.
Aw.
That was another recent one. It's hard to remember them, I'm not going to lie.
It is hard.
I know.
Yeah,
well, you've done so many.
I've done so many. And truthfully, I narrate like 120 to 130 books a year. I work a lot. Wow. I'm super grateful and thankful for that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of paces and like stamina to keep up.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't give it up. I love it. So
wow.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. We hear you though, because everybody that we interview, like today when we were interviewing you, it was like, shoo, she doesn't have a book. Because we have to read so many books to interview.
And we actually read the books. Like we don't just show up, because
We
I know a lot of podcasters.
We want to be authentic and we want to, you know,
really
and give them like our honest like fan reaction. Like I know, like we write. I want to know how a reader feels. You know what I mean? I want to know.
I played this all wrong. I should have given you like my top 5 favorite books and had you listen. And then we could have had this conversation.
Well, that sounds like you just have to come back. I mean,
fair enough.
That's what I'm getting out of it.
Fair enough.
Yes. Or maybe Mercy can come to New York City in July, skip Iceland.
I'll be in Iceland. I'll be in Iceland in July.
Newsville sounds terrible.
Or maybe if Kaya shows up, I can interview the both of you.
You definitely could.
I should. What?
Maybe we should get a couple of girls together and boys.
But you won't be there.
A little bit more about everything. Well, not there. I'm saying
we could do an episode. Zoom you in. Yeah, maybe we could zoom you in or something.
Or do an episode.
Oh yeah, that's true. We could do that.
Think this is a really important topic to our readers that are listeners.
I'd love to hear what people. Huge. So I will say, like, the books that I sign the most, definitely a lot of Rebecca Yarros, but T.L. Swan, The Takeover is probably the book that I sign the most often.
Which one?
The Takeover, part of the Miles High series.
Okay.
It is like laugh out loud hysterical. First of all, her writing, you want to smack both the male and the female. Or at least I do when I'm narrating. I'm like, you are making terrible decisions. Their highs, their lows, their drama. Oh my God. Talk about a wild ride. It is like every sort of young relationship I ever had where it was so dramatic. And that's what you thought was like the relationship was supposed to be. That's what these are. And yet they're able to move past all their issues and stuff like that. But like, oh my goodness, is she a wild ride? I love it. She's Australian too. I've had the chance to meet her. Oh my goodness, she's a blast.
Okay, I'm following her on Audible.
Oh, you should. Have you listened to The Takeover yet?
I haven't.
Oh my God.
I haven't.
I think
I will.
It may be life-changing for you. Okay, so that's one of the ones I hear a lot about. I should have come with a list.
It's okay.
Okay, fair enough.
You're coming back.
Yes.
I'm going to come back. So you're
going to come back. We're going to do this again.
We'll get a list.
Yes, absolutely. And yes. So we've been chatting for a long time. Thank you so much for being our guest today. Okay, so before we jump off.
Yes, tell me.
What is coming up next for you? What can our listeners and viewers look forward to?
It's a great question. Okay, so I am not sure on release dates because, like I said, I get booked out months and months and months in advance. So I know nothing about anything releasing, so I can't even do a spoiler. I wish I could. I just know I work a lot.
What a great problem to have.
Embarrassment of riches. I will say that I'm doing some book events. I'm going to Beachside Book Fest. I've got some stuff planned for 2026, so I would love it if people came and saw me. I'm doing Indies Invade Philly. I'm doing Charm City Romanticon in Maryland. It'll be my first time there. I think they're already sold out, but maybe you can get on their wait list. I'm doing something in Chula Vista in June next year. Mm-hmm. So I love going to these kinds of events.
Are you going to be at a Polycon next year? Because we're trying to go there.
Oh, you are? Do you know, I don't don't know that they have narrators. I know
think
that narrators, they sometimes will put them on a panel, but they're not signing narrators. And I don't know
Oh,
that they do signing narrators and stuff.
well,
Like I
maybe
know
they
people who
should.
go. I
Yeah.
don't know that they're super into it. I think they're into the author thing.
Mm,
I know. What are you going to do?
yeah.
Um, but I know a lot of narrators that go and then, go up to author booths and, want to meet them and get to know them,
Sure,
right? It's still an
network.
industry, of
Yeah.
course,
Mhm.
still an industry event. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so
Love
much
that.
for being our guest
Yeah.
today.
Yeah,
And,
How
pleasure.
can
and if
our
our
go ahead?
Talk at the same time. Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
Go ahead.
how can our listeners learn more about you
Oh,
and more about
great
what you're
question.
doing and reading?
I would love that. So I think the easiest way is to follow me. Like I said earlier, it's so important to follow your favorite narrators, your favorite authors. It oddly gives people like, a little bit of like social capital to let them know that you're popular, that people want to invest in you. So I'm at Carly Robbins Narrator. I'm out as CJ Bloom. I try
Beautiful.
and highlight, books that I have that are coming out when I'm going to a book event. Sometimes I just talk about baking. I love to bake. I was a little late to the sourdough starter of the pandemic times, but
Mhm.
I have one now.
Good.
I'm currently rising some dough at the moment as we
I
speak.
love that.
So food is a big passion of mine. And so I'll sometimes talk about that. And then, highlighting my friends and colleagues and, people that I just, love and appreciate the work and inspiration that they provide for me.
And
Love it.
educating us on important
Yeah.
things.
Yes,
We need to learn.
yes. So we
that.
will put your social media handles and your
Great.
website in the summary
Great.
below, so our folks can like reach out to you, support you, follow you, and we're gonna have you back on
You got
because
it.
an hour
Go.
was way too short.
Absolutely.
Who knew?
Who knew? I love it.
Thank you so much for being our guest, Carly
Thank you for having
Robbins,
me.
aka CJ Bloom. You were amazing. For our listeners and viewers out there, thank you for joining us for another great episode of Books and Martinis. Like, share, follow, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
And thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course.